do this.
Good evening or morning, afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are. The moral of the story here is Merry Christmas if you celebrate it, or Merry whatever holiday you choose to be involved with, guys. My name is Toffees, and this is the return of Coffee with Toffees. Glad to be here. You can find me at Toffees TV over on the Twitter if you're interested. And it's going to be a fun show for you today. But before I do that, I want to give you a quick update for those of you who listen to the podcast or been following the show for a while. You're probably thinking to yourself, it's been a while since we've seen you, Toffees. And that is because my computer blew up about 2 months ago, and I had no option to sort of make the show anymore. And I reached out to as many folks as I could because, honestly, I didn't want to have to ask fans to do some sort of, or viewers to do some sort of, like, I don't know, what do you call those, Kickstarter campaigns and things like that. I felt bad about that, so we looked for sponsors, and Pro-Built Systems stepped up along with some help from Asus and gave us the impetus to launch the show and get it back up and running. So Around the Pit and Coffee with Toffees back, thanks to Pro-Built Systems, is made completely on a system put together by them and powered by Asus. So that said, let's get into this. Now, I'm joined by a couple of guests here you guys may or may not be familiar with. They are the members of Team Leviathan. First up, we've got Jason. How are you doing today, Jason?
Doing good.
Awesome. I'm joined also by Jenkins. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good.
And last but not least, Shibby, who's sort of in a corner, didn't want a camera, so you may hear him. What was that? All right, so he's a little bit echoey. But we'll try to get him involved as much as we can. If not, he may just walk over and join Jason on his computer. That said, this should be pretty good, guys. So the reason that I invited Leviathan on today is you guys have had a, how do I say, pretty big week. Actually, hold on. I said I would read the top 3 questions that people submitted to Reddit, right? And the first one was awesome because Forums Guy actually wrote out my entire introduction for me. So I'm going to use it because I thought he wrote it out exactly the way that I would say it. So this is what he wrote, posted on Reddit, and asked me to say live. Merry Christmas, you guys. First off, back from a long trip and a, let's say, eventful tournament. How are you guys feeling right now?
The Merry Christmas was for us or for the viewers? I guess we'd probably be included.
Yeah.
So I'm viewing it too. Oh, thanks for the Merry Christmas. You too.
Okay.
What was the other part?
This was your first LAN experience, and from the Moonduck Ranch show, it was probably quite an awful experience for you guys. And then we go in to talk about the LAN, and I think that he wrote this very, very well. But before I talk about the LAN, I really want to set up the value of this LAN to you guys, because we heard a YouTube video released by Peter Dager, I think it was yesterday or the day before, that sort of talked about why would you go to the WCA, and if you're gonna go to a tournament like this, aren't you prepared for it to suck? And I think that that has some validity if you are a big tier 1 team who makes thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. You guys are not that team, right? I don't believe your earnings have broken the ballpark of 100,000 anytime in the last year or possibly a lifetime. So tell me about the process of getting to WCA. I know that you went through a lot of big changes and a lot of qualifiers, so sort of tell me how you got to WCA and then why this was an important tournament for you.
Okay, so how we got there was there's a little bit of mic scratching I'm hearing. That's Shivy? Okay, if you wouldn't mind, Shivy. So how we got there was, as most people know, there was probably about a dozen qualifiers for WCA, pro qualifiers, and then there was 2 open qualifier slots from NA. And we did the pro qualifiers as Team Leviathan, and I think we got completely owned in it, actually. And we always joked about the $10,000 devastating loss, and that's always a joke that we do because we all have kind of like a sick sense of humor. During that qualifier, we had lost to Elite Wolves. They're called Elite Wolves now, but they were not today. They did a 6 Necrobook strategy, and we lost with the biggest gold lead in the history of Dota to them. So we always joked about that, how we lost that. However, we got a kind of a second opportunity because our coach and at the time our current carry player was MJW, and they were the remnants of Team EHUG, and they had won one of the open qualifier slots. However, none of the teams that qualified for WCA were around, so they kind of ran a new kind of qualifier, and we came first in that. And we only had to, we played against Archon and then Uporn, and we didn't have to do like a full gauntlet of teams which you would normally have to do because we already had like the slot because of the EHUG guys. However, uh, I mean our Archon's definitely a really good team in some Zooporn, so we prepared for that, and then we won that, and they gave us 8 grand for it, which is pretty sweet. And then we went to
Nice.
WCA. Why is it
So
important to
yeah,
us?
so it was a fight to get there. You had to burn your way through qualifiers, right? There's nothing given to Leviathan at this point. Um, is this the first major land that you guys are able to attend?
Yeah, it was the first one. I mean, we've been close before.
Mm-hmm.
We've gotten second place when it was like only one slot. We've gotten third place when there's 2 slots. And I've always been jealous of that of all the other NA teams getting. They kind of like rotate between the second place slot.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Sometimes there's 3 slots if you include EG, and we've never really gotten to go. So obviously we were like really excited for this, and even though we knew that it was like not particularly good last year, according to all the other pro players, we still thought that we'd go give it a try just because it was like an opportunity for us, and we practiced really hard. We actually were scrim buddies with Alliance
Mm-hmm.
at WCA, and we were doing considerably well against them, and we learned a lot from them too.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, didn't you ask Gods before we went though? And he said something about like being good last year. 'Cause I remember we were trying to make a decision to go or not.
Yeah, I asked Gods, and God said he recalled that the hotel was really nice, and pretty much everything but the venue he said was like excellent. Which
Okay.
arguably the venue is the most important thing, but I kind of assumed that okay, like so they had a bunch of really good things about this event, and then why are you laughing, Nishan? What's your problem?
So I'm reading Twitch chat. Sorry.
Okay. If you're saying I look like Ellen DeGeneres again, motherfuckers. Okay. Where was I? I'm not totally lost.
So,
Okay.
so you heard from Gods that it was not a great venue, but an okay experience. So
Yeah.
that tells me that you guys were actually thinking about not going. So there was actually the possibility of not going to a $650,000 land.
Yes.
There was. Yeah. I
Mainly
mean,
because of the expedited visas and passports, because Zebra actually didn't have his passport yet, so he had to pay, I want to say about $1,000 to expedite his passport. And
yeah. I actually remember.
whereas everyone else paid, I think, like 200 to 300.
We couldn't get our carry player. Like, okay, so we played with Jaw, and he plays support. We played him on carry. The guy has a goddamn wrist problem. He has tendonitis in his wrist. So like, I had to get him this like Canadian gel that you can put on your wrist, and I had to bring it for him. And I lost my luggage on the way there, and luckily they got it. But we actually like we probably, if we didn't get that luggage in the gel, we probably would have lost in groups. Like he was still having hand problems because it doesn't fix it, tendonitis, but it negates the pain.
Huh.
But still, it's really funny because of how short notice it was and how last minute the organization was. We actually we just couldn't bring our carry player because he has a Mexican passport.
I see what you're saying. So you did decide to go, and I assume the impetus for deciding to go was the fact that it was a lot of money on the land, and it's a good exposure opportunity. I mean, it's it's a larger event this year. It's massive. It's open to a lot of people. However, you got to take a sub. How worried were you about that when you guys got there and started to prep?
Well, we expected to get dead last. Like we did not expect to get 5th place because Jaw. I mean, he did what he could, but I mean, there's only so much you can do when you're a support player playing carry at a LAN against teams like Alliance with a wrist injury, So we expected to just be like fun, kind of like a fun experience for us. So we went, we kind of messed around, and then we realized we actually were going toe to toe with like really really good teams. So we started trying really hard. As soon as the patch came out, we printed off the patch notes and we sat for like 7 or 8 hours in the hotel, just like talking about what we think, which heroes are strong and which heroes are weak, because that was one of the days they wouldn't let us practice.
So far we've had visa issues, maybe not deciding whether or not to go, wrist injuries, an inability to bring your carry, and then on top of that, we had a change of both management within the team as well as the loss of a sponsor inside of that timeline, correct? So did both of those things happen like a week or two before you guys left?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. It's probably one of the most stressful. Like that, those were the most stressful weeks of my life. I was actually having like I was waking up at night, like getting in fights with my coat and stuff like that. I was just having like psychotic breakdowns. I was so stressed. I had exams too.
Mm.
Luckily, my dad helped me a lot with my visa issues. Everybody else was dealing with them on their own. So
I thought you were gonna say
like
with your exams. That would have been funny.
no, Jesus, dude, don't get me. You're gonna get me expelled.
So far we've established there's a lot that went on. Jenkins' father actually had to go take his finals for him. He had to go to WCA, which was very nice of your dad. I appreciate that, Mr. Jenkins.
Bastard failed all of them.
So it sounds like you had a tough time getting ready to go to this event. That said, at the end of the day, you decide to go. You get the visas that you presumably need. You get the team together. You get some Canadian wrist gel. You put it all into play, and then you start your WCA adventure. What I want to do here is, well, before we talk about WCA adventure, you brought up the loss of a sponsor. I think that this is a topic that's probably just as hot, if not hotter, over the last 6 months than this sort of WCA debacle cheating issue with wings has been, and that is Martin Shkreli, I believe is how you say his name.
I thought it was Shkreli.
Shkreli. I'm not great with pronunciation. That said, this gentleman, and long story short, you guys joined Imagine. Then this huge story came out about how he was the skeeziest man on earth. He had tons of coverage on all news media outlets, and a lot of that backlash was fired at Team Leviathan, now Team Imagine. You guys sort of changed your name back to Leviathan, but we never heard a statement from you guys about like sort of the situation that you found yourself in. Why is that it took so long for you guys to really just even be willing to say this is where we're at with this whole thing?
Jenkins, you want to handle it?
Okay, yeah, I know, like for you, Toffees, this is like a rhetorical question because I know you know already, but for the viewers, well, wait a minute, did I just like fail an NDA? Because I technically wasn't supposed to tell it. Whatever. Okay, so we had when we actually signed up for Imagine, we were told that they were gonna find some pharmaceutical sponsor, and we didn't even know the guy's name at this point. And this was months and months ago, way before the whole like 7,000% drug thing. You know, nobody knew who this guy was before, including us. We didn't even know his name. All we had communication with was the guys who were like really passionate about the League of Legends team or whatever. And we thought there were some really cool guys. They said something about a pharmaceutical guy. We're like, okay, whatever. You're giving us money. That's sweet. I assume that money would come from somewhere. So it's usually like a solo investor who's really passionate about esports. And then after we had signed an NDA and after we had signed a contract that says we would have to pay damages if we had hurt like the company image.
Okay.
This whole 7,000% drug raise thing happened, right? And I mean, I felt we all felt really restricted. We actually made a lot of jokes about it, and I think that's how we deal with like pressure and stress, is we joke about it. So whenever we hear the name Martin Shkreli, we kind of laugh because we would just joke about it because there's nothing else we could do. We were kind of stuck, and like the entire community hated us for like 2 to 3 weeks, and obviously we don't agree with what this guy did. I mean, who the hell would? We even tried to give him the benefit of the doubt because he was our sponsor or he was our funder, and we heard from our sponsors that like, oh, he's a good guy. He does this and this, and even then, like even when we did research and we looked into it, like we found ourselves like not liking this guy. Like the internet was completely right about him, and we couldn't do anything about it because we were signed into a contract, and we're a bunch of poor like American Dota players. We're not going to go pay damages for like we couldn't say anything. But now I can say we completely disagree with everything he did. Of course, I mean who the hell wouldn't? And we're no longer contracted to them. In fact, he actually ended up getting arrested like a month after our contract ended. And of course, when the contract ended, we immediately took the opportunity to get the hell out of Dodge. And then he got arrested, and we actually haven't gotten our last month's salary, which kind of sucks because we're struggling to pay for rent on the team house.
Right.
And WCA hasn't paid out yet. We're waiting for.
Sorry.
we're waiting for Suit American to pay out. Like there's a bunch of winnings that we have that we haven't gotten yet, and we're like struggling to pay rent, which kind of sucks because we don't have a sponsor now, which we're looking for one.
No, and this is something where this, if the trend is followed from previous tournaments, DAC, I think we heard the announcement from EG that a year later they got their payout from DAC, that a lot of these tournaments take a long time, sort of move money because of customs and things like that. Just on a side note, have you considered some sort of, I don't want to say a Kickstarter, maybe like a GoFundMe or a Patreon campaign to just maybe pay rent for a month or two as a stopgap solution until you guys get your sponsor money or the winnings in? Because I feel like in order to continue to become a top competitive North American team, you probably need a roof over your head.
Yeah, that's definitely something that's a bit of a requirement. We did do Patreon for a while, and it was pretty successful. It was like $350 a month, which we definitely appreciated, but it didn't pay for the entire team house. Then again, that being said, at that point we were actually really shitty and we had no winnings, but we've made like $15,000 in the past 2 months from just winnings lately, which is, I mean, if they paid out, that would be plenty for rent, but they haven't paid out yet. So effectively, we've won that much money, but we've made $0 of it. So Patreon will work, but I'm just like it sounds like a quite a difficult task to get the community to like rally behind you like that. And God knows we'd appreciate it, but it's really hard because we're trying to focus on like playing and keeping our wits about us.
Right.
Well.
Really, Troya in Twitch chat just said he'll pay you each $500 a month. So
I saw that.
At least that's something to get us started off with. So it sounds like the moral of the story is with Martin, with Team Imagine, you guys signed before you knew anything about sort of the shadow figure behind the funding. And then once it all came out, there wasn't anything you could do because of contracts.
That's exactly it.
Can I say something real quick? I read Reddit a lot, and there's like this big thing where people think that like we rebranded because we're like embarrassed and all these things. Like basically all the decisions made by Imagine, we didn't have any control of. They would basically be like, hey, you guys are the players, don't worry about it. We're just gonna do things. So we were like, okay. They wanted to rebrand to Leviathan anyway, like back, because they wanted to have multiple divisions open in case they were to want to pick up another Dota team or another league team.
I see.
So yeah, all these people who think they know what they're talking about on Reddit, saying that we're trying to like run from the Martin stuff. That's, I mean, maybe that was why they did it, but we had no idea. We're just trying to play Dota.
I don't think that's why they did it. I mean, like the guys, like everybody except for Martin, they're all. I mean, God,
Mike and Gerard were awesome.
We had no contact with Martin. I don't even know if they did after the whole debacle, but the actual sponsors, they were really great guys, which is why when that whole why are you laughing at, you bastard? What are you laughing at?
That New York Knicks guy really wants us to talk about the Wu-Tang album. It's really funny.
Oh, okay. I'm actually a huge Wu-Tang fan, and I was like blown away when I read that. Oh man, like I should. Oh, that fucker, man.
It's fine to me though when we talk about selfishness, where people are concerned about the Wu-Tang album than say like the AIDS medication. But I understand it as somebody who listened to a lot of Wu-Tang growing up.
Oh, speaking of the Wu-Tang album, that's one of the biggest reasons we were upset, because we still haven't been paid, and then we find out he spent $2 million or something.
Oh yeah.
We're just like, oh come on, you owe us like $6,000. Really?
It's funny because like regardless of the whole $7,000 or 7,000% drug increase, like regardless of everything he did in mainstream media, we probably still wouldn't like him because of how, I don't know, lazy he was with actually paying out. Like there were some months where it would go like halfway into the next month and we wouldn't have salary or winnings, and the guys, like the sponsors, not Martin, they were trying their best to like contact him and get him to pay out, and he had signed a contract saying that this was his organization, like he wanted to fund this, and they tried their hardest, but he just like wasn't responding. It took so much effort to sometimes get our salary. So even regardless of like all the media attention, if he was just like some nobody investor, like nobody in the eyes of mainstream media, we would still probably have problems with him because he just refused to pay out, or even with our sponsors just like hounding at him to try and get him to pay out.
Okay, so it sounds like, I mean, at the end of the day, the moral of the story is you're just a couple of boys who want to play Dota. saw a chance for some funding, then found out, unfortunately, it wasn't as clean as you would have liked. I mean, guys, this is the same structure we use for most professional sports, right? We have an owner who does a lot of the funding, and then there's a whole front office, a main staff, the people who run the organization on a day-to-day basis. And it sounds like even those guys were sort of out of the loop in terms of who the big boss was, if that makes sense.
We even tried to consider like breaking the contract just for like moral reasons, but then like my dad convinced me it wasn't worth it. Like it could be, life ruining to be paying damages to some silly like just league Dota organization just because you did something like that for moral reasons. Especially when our contract was ending in like a month and a bit anyway. We figured it would just be better to just hold out and just not say anything until then. But now we can say something.
Did your dad advising you not to follow your moral requirements sort of the start to him taking your finals for you?
Yeah. Well, actually, he's taken.
Starting to wear his clothes too. It's really weird.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, either he's wearing women's clothing or he's wearing my clothing. So it's like,
it's all the same.
I'd actually prefer him to wear mine. I'm just kidding. My dad might watch this. You guys, just so you know, I'm just joking about all of this.
I'm sure he knows that. All right. So that said, we've got a little bit of the Martin stuff out of the way. I think that was important. I think a lot of folks on the forums sort of want to be fans of Leviathan because you guys have a rich history of a good, strong core, commitment to making it work, and sort of grinding it out, even though some of you, for instance, Jenkins, I know that your MMR doesn't fall into the prototypical famous level that we always talk about with pro players. I believe
most of them were on the team.
What are you talking about, dude?
I'm just saying, normally when we go pro player, we think 6K, maybe more.
I am 6K, dude. I put my party on MMR on there to fuck with people.
So that said, though, you guys have a good, rich history, and I think a lot of folks do want to follow you. But the Martin thing has been a deterrent, and I'm glad to see that is something that we can address at this point and sort of put out on the table. So hopefully folks talk about it or at least see this and sort of understand where you were coming from. Now, WCA, we heard a lot from Nikki on the Moonduck episode. If you guys haven't seen the What the Duck, it is like 2 hours, I think, long. So in case you didn't go through it, just give us sort of a rundown of your WCA experience. And we don't have to talk about like the cheating and stuff just yet. I just kind of want to know, in terms of like your week in China, what was it like?
Okay, I guess I'll do this one as well. So we got to China. Okay, I'll just do mine because I'm pretty sure everybody else pretty much went together except for Jaw. He's from Hawaii, so he didn't go with them.
Yeah, we flew as 4.
Jaw's from Hawaii?
He's from Hawaii. Yep. They went as 4, so they were all super. They're comfortable. They're having a good time, chilling out with each other. And they get there, and they're just relaxing at the event, getting free breakfast, free lunch.
That's not entirely true. You weren't there the
shut
first.
Up, dude. Hey,
shut up. I just want to talk about the LAN center first off.
Fuck's
sake. You weren't there for this.
Well, can I talk about me flying out and losing my fucking luggage first?
All right, and then I'm talking about the LAN center.
Okay. Here's what happened. So I was in Beijing airport after flying for like 13 fucking hours or something like that, and I'm like, man, I gotta take a big dump right now. So I went to the bathroom. I took a dump, and I was going on my phone playing some games, like everyone does on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking completely lying if you say you don't play on your phone. You're taking a big old turd out of your butt. Like
poops and games.
Yeah, poops and games. So I'm taking a poop out of my ass, and I pull my phone out playing some cat games. It's like Mitsu Makuna or whatever. If you go to my Twitter, you see I was actually tweeting about I was getting some good cats and feeding them stuff. Anyway, put my phone down, wipe my ass. Walk out of the stall after making sure there's no brown on the toilet paper for quite some time. Walk out 30 seconds later. I'm like, oh shit! I left my phone in the toilet. I run back like 20 seconds, like probably 50 seconds. I was out of the washroom, and I go in and phone's fucking gone, man. Like, so I was traveling from Beijing with no phone, and I actually, when I got to Yinchuan, I didn't realize that you had to check out your luggage from Beijing as well, and then check it back in to the Air China. So I didn't have my luggage either. So I got to the event, and I had nothing on me except for my wallet, my passport, and like a comb, which was good. I was actually combing my hair quite a bit. I was having a good time.
It's important.
Yeah, it's definitely important. Actually, I can see in your picture here. You probably did a lot of combing there. Yeah, and the beard too, maybe. actually can't grow one of those, but anyway. I get there and I was just like, and nobody speaks English, so I was like, just give me a room, and I'll wake up and I'll try to find my team in the morning. And they gave me a room. They actually wanted to take my passport, but thank God I met some manager from World of Tanks, one of the teams, and he's just like, no, you're not taking anyone's passports. That's our only way out of China. And then he saved my ass. And luckily I had my laptop, and I connected to the Wi-Fi for like 1 second or something, and I said to Shibby like 1116 my room, and then it disconnected, and then they showed up at my door, and then that's how I met the team. And
Wow.
that was a travel experience. So Nusha, if you want to talk about the land center, you can go ahead.
Oh yeah. Okay. So the first day, before we came to WCA, we pretty much asked them if we have like practice rooms or whatever, like some way to practice. And they assured us that we did. So the first day, for some reason, I think if anyone watched the Moonduck thing, for some reason, Leviathan was told to show up 3 days before it actually started. No other team did this. I don't know why.
That's true.
So the first day we're there, we went to a land center, which was like under construction for some weird reason, and it was probably one of the worst experiences. It took like 5 hours to get onto Perfect World. Wi-Fi wasn't working. There was just people like doing construction, like doing random shit with tiles. Ugh. Yeah, that's pretty much.
I heard. I didn't go to the land center, but I did
hear much people talk about it.
I heard that there was a guy welding without a mask on. Like that.
Yeah.
That's how like sketchy this place was.
It was on like a tiny piece of wood too.
People were walking over pipes that were like spraying out all sorts of like chemicals and liquids and stuff, and there was just like holes in the floor. Like they were constructing it, and I'm pretty sure people were actually convinced that that was the venue because.
Yes, because there was like a sign that said like WCA, and it's like a very tiny stage, and we're just like, oh, this isn't it.
So that sounds terrible. And now, Nikki said that you guys were told to remain in the hotel and not leave it for the first 3 days you were on site. Is that true?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So what was?
We were constantly called out to the lobby from like WeChat. The one of the admins, I think it was Lily.
Okay.
To tell our manager like, oh, you guys have to be there by X time. So we'd show up really early. We'd make sure we'd like.
We just wait there for 10 hours.
Lose some sleep, and then we'd just sit around in the lobby and nothing would happen.
For 10 hours, like straight in the lobby. I mean, granted, it is a 5-star hotel, so it
wasn't that bad, honestly.
Like being in the lobby was nice, but we were like, it's our first land, so we were super stoked. So we were sitting right by the door, like in the freezing cold, on some ledge, because we're like, when the bus comes, we want to be the first people on it, so we can get computers and just practice. Because we don't want to just show up and get fucking stomped by everyone, you know, like though the NA team can't take a single game off anyone else, like. And then it's just 10 hours we're sitting there. And then it's like, oh, we're going tomorrow. The venue's not ready yet. Well, I mean, shouldn't you guys know that the venue's not going to be ready? That seems like a pretty hefty task to like. How are you 3 days off on an estimate of when a venue's going to be ready?
Well, more importantly, how are they not only 3 days off, but you're the only team that's 3 days off because everybody else apparently got the memo and came later.
Well, then the day before the venue opening up, I think is when all the teams got there. The only other team that was there that I recall was YouPorn.
Okay.
And they only had a few members.
So you guys got there 3 days early. You spent a lot of time sort of sitting around. I guess we could say maybe you strategized and thought things over. Did you have any time to sort of deal with the new patch since the internet was so bad, or how'd that work out?
We actually went to the hotel, like the back room, some back room behind the what the hell is it called, the front desk, and we asked them if we could use their printer, and they said yes. So we go to the patch notes and we printed it off, and we did some sort of system where we would. I mean, I guess I probably shouldn't reveal what our system is for like analyzing new patches, but I think it worked pretty well because we went and we scrimmed Alliance, and we had some really good games against them when we were drafting the new heroes. So we did have time to deal with the new patch, and when we were sitting in the lobby, we were writing on the notes, so it wasn't that bad. I actually
get to play though. I don't know.
We didn't get to play, but I actually, and I don't think anyone who went to the event has any complaints about the actual hotel. Like the hotel staff were extremely accommodating. They were very patient, and like the amount of respect they showed us as players was like absurd. I couldn't believe it. They were so respectful. Like you would go over and you would ask them something, and you wouldn't speak English, and they would just have 10 people trying to help you and like figure out how to do things, even if it was something as like complicated as getting my luggage back from the airport. They actually did it.
Yeah, like the translators helped, I think, the most.
Took 10 people, but they did it. And the everyone was phenomenal actually at this event. I have a lot of respect for the Chinese Dota fans. Like they actually seem to care the most about how this event was run. I mean,
it was pretty refreshing coming from North America, where the scene's pretty like lackluster.
It was.
I have a bunch of spoiled brats who like just flame all the time. So seeing people who are just passionate about the game and wanting to get pictures and asking them opinions and stuff, it's really nice.
So, it was amazing. So I just
Shibby said fans, hotel, city, phenomenal. It sounds like you said venue and staff at the venue maybe not so phenomenal. Let's go to day one. Because I know that we had day one is the day that you guys were there until like 2 a.m. in the morning, right? Or is that?
No. Day one we didn't have games.
Okay, but you still had to like go to the stadium and sit around. Like, tell me.
Basically, yeah.
I heard some crazy stuff happened day one. Tell me about day one.
Do you remember it, or do you want me to do it, Jenkins?
I don't remember all that much.
I have a really good memory. So basically, we show up. Okay, first off, the bus situation.
Oh, fuck's sake.
And we thought we had to play, so I think it was Digital Chaos. They got on the bus. They looked pretty upset. I pretty much knew what they wanted to say, but found out later in the What the Duck it was true. They basically wanted us off the bus because they wanted spots on the bus. So basically, a bunch of frustrated players were just on the bus trying not to get off because they wanted to go play. There's a new patch, obviously.
Right.
So we get to the venue, freezing cold. We're kind of walking around. We don't know what to expect, and then we just see these plastic tables and chairs, and we're just like, "Excuse me." I remember everyone's just like, "Okay, this is like where you practice, right?" And then one of the volunteers was like, "No, this is where you play your matches." I remember Artisi was just like, "Excuse me," and like everyone started laughing. We're just like, "How is this a thing?" So we all start getting set up. We're across from Digital Chaos, so they get into a few pubs. We start to get our stuff set up. We start some pubs, and then we're told to just abandon our games and just get up. So I think Shibby, maybe Zebra, had to abandon their pubs. We get up, and we don't know what exactly it's for. And then we come back about 30 minutes later, and we just see 5 people in our chairs playing a phone game in front of our computer. And we're just like, you couldn't have done this anywhere else.
Wow.
Like,
So they weren't even using the computer; they were just sitting there.
No. They were in front of an empty computer. It was just dark. The monitors were off. They just were on their phones, and we're like, you couldn't have done this on like any of the other like 15 rows of chairs in this. Like, oh my god.
Interesting.
Okay.
Were they tournament players or were they like just staff?
They
I think they were tournament.
They were tournament players. They were playing one of the Chinese rip-off games that like the company that funds most of WCA. Like they were just trying to Tencent. They were trying to advertise like one of their games by having it be played at WCA. Gotcha. They're just sitting in front of the Dota computers playing their MOBA. And like we're like, okay, well, you know, sure, this is a game. Like we don't want to disrespect them. We don't want to bother them while they're playing. So we left. But if you look down, it was like in the Matrix when that like, you know, the shelf of like guns and stuff comes up, like endless shelf of just like equipment. You look down and it's like a Matrix shelf of just fucking computers and like chairs and everything's empty. And they're sitting here on the Dota computers playing this stupid MOBA. Like it's infuriating, man. I mean, God knows.
What makes the most sense to me is they had this section specifically for phone games where they actually had the DX racers because there's about 30 of them. But they would not let the Dota players use them unless you had like a condition. So like,
you
had Digital Chaos probably were lying. They're like, oh yeah, our team has back issues, and they had like 2 of them.
They had 2 of them.
So after the event, like you could just see like security guards just sleeping in the DX racers.
In the DX racer chairs. It was infuriating. Like
crazy.
There was so many unused DX racer chairs. And DX racer chairs, and then like people sleeping in them, like security guards who just like didn't give a fuck and like didn't want to be there, and the Chinese government was just trying to like job create by having them be there. Like there were so many unused DX racer chairs, and until the group stages were over, we weren't permitted to use them. And the only reason we were permitted to use them when the group stages were over is because the WCA staff fucking vanished and wouldn't get us in trouble for taking the chairs blatantly past security. And God knows security's not going to do anything. Like God, on day 3 of the event, there was some issue where you needed to have green lanyards to get back to the player area.
Okay.
I guess to prove that you were on like to prove that you were on day 3. And one of like the Dota translators who was actually adminning for some reason because WCA like disappeared, got into an argument with security and just like fucking pushes a police officer out of the way, goes back, grabs the green lanyards and starts handing them out to the Dota players. And like he's sitting there arguing with like police officers that have like guns and stuff, and they just don't do anything. Like I don't know if that's
There's
just
so many of them too.
if that's Chinese police or like. And this isn't a big guy. This is like a little guy, man. Like a little Chinese guy just pushing around big
Passionate
like
about Dota, man.
40-year-old like police officers, right? Like I couldn't believe it. And then we just go back with the lanyards, and the police officers are like, "Oh, you have the lanyards now." Like, sure, go back. It's like, buddy, you just fucking saw this guy steal the lanyards from you, and you're just gonna let us back now? Like, oh my god, what a bunch of pussies, man.
Okay, so day one, you went to the venue, you got kicked off your computers for somebody to play mobile games, and then eventually you were just like, F it, we're gonna go back to the hotel where we spent the last 3 days in the lobby anyway, and you head back to the hotel. What happened as we go into day two?
Okay, so.
Or is there more to talk about on day one?
No.
Didn't we just get to the venue really early?
I think day two they said. So we heard from our translator. Her name was Tabitha, and she was wonderful. Albeit there was some mistranslations. I mean, she was a student. She was. I'm pretty sure she was like.
I don't think she was getting paid either.
No, they were all volunteers.
Yep. But she did a hell of a job. Honestly, she's like our friend now. You know what I mean? Like she 100% our friend now. She was really, really nice and tried her best. And she told us she got word from the WCA people like, oh, your game starts at 2. And our manager Tom was just saying how well, the games were delayed by 5 or 6 hours yesterday. Why are we going at 2 when we know they're gonna? You guys are allocating hour slots for a best of 2 in Dota 2. That's not gonna work. And then they said, well, you're gonna play at 2 regardless. You know, you should go anyway. Like we're gonna have you guys play at 2. And then the buses only went before noon, so we went at around 10 a.m. because it was the last bus.
Okay.
And our games didn't start until 7 or 8 p.m. Chinese time or Yinchuan time. So we were actually at the event for 10 hours, sitting in the cold. There was no player area whatsoever. Okay. There was a lunch, like a cafeteria and a lunchroom, but there was nowhere near enough room in the cafeteria for all of the players to sit. So we ended up just like walking around and chilling with fans and stuff, which was excellent. But there was nowhere to sit. So we were just sitting on the dirty floor. You know, there's like dust going in our mouth and our eyes.
I saw some photos. I think there was a picture of like LGD and some other Chinese teams as well, just sort of just sitting there waiting.
Yeah, like the same exact spot we were actually. It's like right in front of the Dota booth. You had like a view to the stream, but yeah.
So 10 hours, then your game starts.
Yep.
So we were across from YouPorn. I think those games went fine because they were so late that there weren't very many other games being played except
so we didn't have to yell over
except
people.
For fucking Crossfire.
Oh,
those dirty birds, man. Fuck them. These guys
screaming.
They were screaming. They were in the whole player area was just a long column of computers. So
I see.
We, you know, you could look to your left and look directly in the eyes of a raging Crossfire player. Like you could catch a glimpse of them. You know, maybe fall in love at first sight. But
to be fair, I think I got more into the game because I had to like scream over them. So all my calls were like very precise.
Well, here's the thing. You're sitting there on TeamSpeak. You can barely hear anything because they're yelling. Crossfire, it's like, you know, oh yeah, like, I'm shooting that guy, yeah, like, man, sick guys, and you know, so you have to yell over them, and all of a sudden you're yelling over Crossfire players with your enemy sitting directly across from you who can speak perfect English. It's just, I mean, it felt dangerous, like but you had to.
Yeah, calling for smoke ganks and Roshes and stuff was kind of like iffy.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you need to be heard on TeamSpeak, but the YouPorn, everybody had their headsets on, so it wasn't that big of a deal, and we all had our headsets on too. So for them, we weren't particularly worried about that sort of thing, even though we had to yell. And then they were very far from us too. Here, I'll try to explain the computer setup. So there was 2 columns of computers, in terms of tables, two very long. Tables pretty much were put into like a line, and then computers were on both sides of the tables. So you could be playing and you could kick the shins of the player who is playing against
Front
you.
of you.
Or alternatively, they could be on the total opposite side, and they could be on the other set of tables. In which case, they can still hear you because they're very
Right.
close.
Like 20 feet away.
But you can't kick their shins. You know what I mean? So there's these two lines of tables that had two computers, pointing the opposite directions. And YouPorn were on the very opposite side of us, facing us, but they were on the opposite side of us, so they could not see us past the computers, and probably couldn't hear us. I mean, we didn't talk to them about it, but they were pretty far, and we all had our headsets on, so it's no big deal. So those games went totally fine. We were okay with the venue. I mean, shitty chairs, but we actually went up to the cafeteria and took some of those chairs, which were a lot nicer. If we didn't do that, I mean, my back would be dead right now. But we did that. We got it past security.
So you played Team YouPorn, and then I think you had a second game. Was LGD that night as well?
Yeah, we had a second game against LGD, but we had to wait for the YouPorn LGD games to end.
Okay.
And they did very quickly.
Okay.
And then our games, about 2 hours after our first series, we played them, which still, because of the delays, was quite late at 2 a.m.
So before we talk about the actual games, I want you to tell me about sort of what happened with the admins or the WCA staff and the LGD game. Because before LGD started, I believe that you guys were told to like sign some sort of contract that you were okay with certain changes to the system. Like, I want to know about that.
Okay, so around midnight is when LGD versus YouPorn started.
Okay.
And one of the admins came up to us. I think he talked to our manager, Tom, and he told him that public transportation stops at 2 a.m.
Oh, yeah.
So they pretty much were telling us that there's the YouPorn and LGD game. So that's going to take we're thinking anywhere from like 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how it goes. So then we have to get set up to play them, which probably takes another 10 to 15 minutes. So by then it'd be around like 12:45. Then we have to play best of 2 against them. It's probably going to take a few hours.
Right.
So we're pretty much facing the fact that if we play them, we won't be able to get back to the hotel. They told us we'd have to stay at the venue and sleep.
And our games the next day would be at 10 a.m. and the buses leave at 8 a.m.
So we were the last games to be played.
We would have to stay at the venue. Sleep
last game we played the second day, first team to play the third day. So they're pretty much telling us we're not going to get sleep.
Okay.
So we came up with the idea that we could potentially just do a best of one. And they pretty much just forced it on us immediately. Like, yeah, that works. So like, here, sign this saying that you forfeit game 2. Like, okay, I guess.
So
we don't really have an option.
Why didn't LGD have the same option situation?
I don't know. We asked for a coin flip. I don't remember exactly how it went. I just remember we had to sign something that basically said we forfeit. We were just, at the time, we were just like, all right, this is bullshit. Let's just.
Well, because you've been on site for, I mean,
we had been there for so long.
They showed up. They showed up about 30 minutes before their game, and we were there 10 hours before our game, which was 2 hours before their game. So we were there for 12 hours before they even showed up. So we just wanted to go the fuck home and get.
Put that
we just
in
wanted to
perspective.
get any sleep we could, basically.
So you're tired and you're staring down the shotgun. If my research is correct, they said that the heating was really non-existent at this venue. So it's dirt cold inside. There's not. I mean, you can't even find a DX racer to sit in, let alone a place to curl up and sleep comfortably. So you're staring down the barrel of freezing your balls off while you're trying to catch some Z's before an 8 a.m. game or 10 a.m. game. And I imagine anybody would probably make the decision of just to get in and out. The question is this. If you had been able to take that game that you theoretically forfeit to LGD off of them, would that have changed your position and your ability to get out of the 5th through 8?
I don't think
so.
Well,
okay. Well, I mean,
I think I would have rather just had slept. I don't care who we played against. I just
that's true. But if we had beaten LGD,
we would have played against.
We would have gotten a slot that was 5 hours after our slot.
Oh, true. I forgot about that.
So we would have actually been able to get some sleep, and we played against Wings Gaming, who had a day off, and we were sitting there on 3 hours of sleep. And then, of course, there was the issues that we had with the rule breaking at the actual during the games.
So long story short, you could make an argument that had you been allowed to play out the BO2s, or had not had to sign the forfeit, or maybe if LGD had to take one, you could have potentially been in a better position to advance.
I guess.
To be fair, we did want to take the best. We did want to play we did want to play against Wings because we thought they were weaker, and then we had no issues with the the whole cheating thing hadn't dawned on us because we had never played them before.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were hearing like ramblings of it around the hotel about people drafting together against the Western teams. But we didn't actually experience it firsthand. So we were like, okay, we want to play Wings. We think they're weaker. We think Empire has a lot of tier 1 players. Like we were more scared of Empire. However, we did want to do the best of one against LGD, but I do believe we were forced into that position by just
mainly because we just wanted to
horrible timing by WCA. Like I definitely.
I don't know about you, Jenkins. Did you sleep at all?
I slept for about probably about an hour, and then
I didn't sleep at all. I was pretty upset about that.
I got a good hour of sleep.
So you don't sleep. You wake up the next day. You're already in a really tough position over the last 2, sitting on the floor waiting for your venues, folding chairs. As I understand completely where that can take a toll. Then you go in for your 10 o'clock game. You take the 8 o'clock bus there. This one is against Wings, and it's a $50,000 game, essentially, right? Because you beat them, you advance to the next level of prize pool. Tell me about so this has been a huge discussion point. In fact, when we first saw the post about doing this show today, I put it up and said, we're going to sit down and talk about WCA. And I didn't say anything about the Wings situation. And then all of a sudden, this sort of blow up happened where Nikki was talking about it on What the Duck. Some other folks were talking about it as well. And it came out that Wings was suspected of cheating or using advantages and sort of not following the rules. And after that, like you saw the thread. I mean, there was a post from their manager, a post from your manager. Tell me from LVT, and I don't care. You don't have to be politically correct. You can say whatever you want because we're going to have the manager of Wings on the day after tomorrow to tell his side. So what I really want from you guys is tell me what happened during this third day.
Jenkins, do you want to do it?
Okay, so
I think if anyone were to do it, it's basically me and Jenkins because we were sitting at the end of the table first off. That was we closest to Wings, so I don't think Shibi, Jaw, or Zebra even saw any of what happened. But like Jenkins was pubbing beforehand, and I was like personally getting upset. I was setting my stuff up. I wasn't even in a game yet, and I just saw like 3 people just bumping into Jenkins nonstop, and Tom wasn't there. So I was getting really upset. So I like stood up, looked for like an admin or anyone to talk to, and I just saw Tom, and I was just like, "Tom, come here, just sit here, so no one can get behind us. Like this is ridiculous."
Okay. And now when you say bumping, was it sort of like being at the club and a lady being all like, "Hey, you looking good"?
It's basically them being like shoulder to shoulder. They were like as close as they could possibly be to Jenkins without nudging him. But if say Jenkins were to like get ganked and like let a sigh of relief, like oh god, like he would have actually bumped into them. Like it was that close. They were right behind. Like they're breathing out.
It was obnoxious.
Was it pretty normal to be packed that close together in the
No,
player area?
No, it really wasn't.
There was usually like nobody standing behind the computer.
I guess it depended on the road you played on.
Especially because in the section that we were playing in, we had our backs up against a wall. So it like squeezing in there wasn't comfortable for even the VIP fans or whatever that came in to watch. And they were even ushering, like after day 1, they were ushering the fans out. Like there wasn't anyone in the player area other than players and managers. Like there was, because day 1 they had no security. Day 2 they had security because people were getting pissed off. So they weren't letting people just fuck around in the player area except for players and managers.
So do you have any? Do you guys know that the people who were standing there were involved with the Wings team, or
I
were they
personally don't know faces or anything, and they weren't. But one thing I know for sure is I saw someone with a TNC jacket, so they could have just been watching for like leisure, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a lot of people, like the same people were hanging out in like crowds because they're probably just friends, you know, like they're the Chinese community. So I'm pretty sure they were hanging out behind them, but that's what I'm saying. It's not that we know for sure if they were cheating. It's that they definitely had the chance to cheat and they wouldn't have been called out on it and nothing would have been done. So the fact that they had the opportunity to is enough to be like, why would you even break the rules and have people stand behind you? I mean, they admitted to it on the Reddit thread. They said that like they had 7 people or something standing behind them. Point of it is it's in the rules that you can't do that. Same with playing with a headset on, which they did not do.
Tell me about the headset situation.
Okay, so I just want to say this: if they explain themselves and they have a perfectly valid explanation for what happened, we are perfectly willing to accept that. Like I get it. It's kill or be killed. It's for a lot of money. We at the time were thinking, man, this is some scumbag tactics. but if it's not against the rules, this is a lot of money. We could play by the same rules, and we didn't because that's our values, but that's our choice. You know what I mean? But it later dawned on us when the managers of the other games were having these conversations about the rules. We looked up the rules and we saw that they were literally breaking the rules as they were written.
I think they broke 2 or 3 of them
in the rule book. So we're not claiming that they're cheating because there's no way we can prove that. How the fuck can you prove that? We don't speak Chinese. I'm not going to say something I can't 100% prove. However, I can prove that they were clearly breaking the rules that were literally written down word for word in the WCA handbook.
So tell me about what rules did you see them actively break?
Okay, number 1, they played without their headsets off, sitting directly across from us. We had to yell to speak into TeamSpeak. We can't understand Chinese, so if they're yelling about smoke gangs or whatever, there's no way we can understand them. However, they can understand us, but we had no choice but to have what we said be completely audible to them, because it was either they hear us and my team hears us,
right,
or they don't hear us and my team doesn't hear us. And I mean, I was definitely yelling and I was definitely making calls, and I'm sure that they were able to hear me. I mean, I even recall like looking over at them and smiling at them, like that's how close we were to each other. That we were able to visually acknowledge each other, and the fact that we're playing against each other for $50,000. You know what I mean?
Now, at any point during that, did you guys point out to the admins on site that their headsets weren't on and say pause?
I personally didn't see anybody to talk to.
Okay.
Probably would have, but also
okay.
people behind them, they had streams on their phones. There was a row behind them that just had a bunch of streams. Like, I'm pretty sure that it looked like they were watching it. Like, put it this way, we don't know, again, for sure that they were cheating. Like, the people behind them were telling them information, but it's just the fact that it was there, and it's for a lot of money. So if they're not going to call it out on it, like, why wouldn't they? That's how we see it. It's like, we just want like a fair playing field, essentially.
That's one.
Because there's no doubt that they're not a good team. Like, I don't know. I know on like the Reddit thread, they're just like flaming us for some reason, but like, it's not like we ever said like, "Oh, you're a bad team." Like, I wouldn't doubt they could beat us, but like, all we wanted was just a fair match, essentially, without rules being broken.
So you saw the headsets, the copious amount of fans sort of in the back area. Was there something else they did that you saw?
It wasn't just fans. It was people coming up behind my computer, taking pictures of my screen.
Gotcha.
Like, I thought they were taking pictures of me, and then it's just fucking directed at my computer screen. And then the same people are just standing behind wings, just like hanging out and talking to them in Chinese.
And we did see a first pick or a first ban Earth Spirit.
I think that would have happened no matter what.
It would have happened either way.
To be fair,
we first faced. Yeah, it was pretty obvious. I think. I don't think they actually had much on the game.
That was definitely obvious. However, they well, okay, it's not fair to say that they played well, therefore they cheated. What I'm claiming is they broke rules that should warrant disqualification from WCA. We did not break rules that would warrant disqualification from WCA. I'm a player. I'm not going to enforce this stuff. I'm gonna bitch about it a little bit, and then I'm gonna go play the next tournament. However, if they're not willing to enforce the rules, then what the fuck is the point of having them? Like,
exactly.
And there was a whole lot of talk about them favoring Chinese teams and letting them break these rules because they were Chinese. I don't know if that was it. I think they were just indecisive. They just didn't want to do anything.
Main thing I wanted to clear up on this show was
they didn't want confrontation, and I'm pretty sure that they just, Chinese, they did a little bit of scumbag tactics, and we didn't. And I'm sure they didn't know they were breaking the rules at the time because they just wanted to win the money. But we never broke the rules, and they did. That's like the bottom line to me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see how more black or white it could get at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to interrupt you real quick. I just want to say that the main reason I personally wanted to come on here is because I saw them like flaming us. So I just wanted to say that like I think there's just a big miscommunication. It's not necessarily that we're upset with Wings. It's more so the
WCA,
which is pretty obvious anyway. Everyone already knows how bad it was. So basically, just want to extend that to them, just giving them respect. Like, they're a good team. They don't need to be so threatened. I feel like they just feel threatened, so they're lashing out.
And you can understand that. I mean, there's not a lot of Western coverage, obviously, of Eastern teams in terms of we can't get an interview with them generally. So perception is reality, and that's, like I said, that's why we invited their manager to come on and sort of talk about their side of things and what they were trying to accomplish, and hopefully that helps clear some things up. That said, you saw the cheating, you saw the issues, you brought it to the WCA, and the Wings manager said in a post he put up that you, or implied that you tried to extort WCA by saying either disqualify Wings or give us $6,000.
Okay.
Can you clarify?
That's so
clear
funny.
that up for us?
That's hilarious. That's actually like something they would say, because that was actually a mistranslation by our translator. We asked them to pay for our visas because we had paid a lot of additional expenses for coming here.
Mhm.
We asked her to go ask them that, and then also we were asking, can you give us the $8,000 that you owe us for our spot right now?
So we already qualified, and
So that way we
technically it was ours anyway, right?
and we said, Tabitha, tell them we're a poor North American team, really grateful for what you guys have done for us, like inviting us here.
Mhm.
We want everything to be paid for that we had to pay to get here, as was promised, and then we want the $8,000. The way Tabitha translated that is she said that we wanted $8,000 plus extra for compensation, and it was just a blatant mistranslation. And the moment she told Tom, our manager, that, he immediately made her go correct herself.
Right.
And she apologized profusely to us because she realizes how like retarded that sounds. It's like, fucking give us money or we're gonna tell Reddit about Wings. Like, no, I mean, we're gonna shitstorm anyway because we're pissed. Like, you can't.
So it sounds like this whole extortion thing is sort of just a byproduct of not speaking the same language.
It's just miscommunication.
It's complete utter bullshit. Like she Tabitha mistranslated. I'm not mad at her because she was trying her fucking best.
And
like,
she's not being paid, so
that's how she
you get
understood.
what you pay for.
She understood what we said.
Exactly.
And she saw how upset we were because we're surrounded by each other and like a personal group of people, and we're very honest and open with our emotions. So we're like, okay, we're pissed off at this event. She knew we were pissed off, so she's like, oh, they're fucking extorting us. But no, it was literally, we asked for what we paid, and then she said $8,000 plus extra. But really, Tabitha, it's $8,000 plus extra to cover our visas. Like,
so did you ask for a Wings disqualification because of their rule breakage? And if so, did you do that before or after the game set?
We didn't ask for a Wings disqualification. We asked for a decision to be made.
I see.
On whether or not they were going to be disqualified. We wanted to know if we were going to have to wake up for the games, essentially. Like,
we basically just pointed out the fact that they broke rules, and then it's kind of like when a team pauses in a game, right? And they go past the pause limit, and then the admins don't have the balls to just say like, "Hey, you guys went past the pause limit. We're gonna unpause now." Instead, they let the players make the decision. It's not on us. We basically just told them what we knew, and it was on them to make a decision, and they couldn't do it. That's what it comes down to.
We actually woke up at 7 a.m. and went to the event and talked to the staff about like, was there a decision made, and they just went through the Wings game. And then told us like, oh yeah, we'll pay your visas. It's like, oh sweet, that totally makes up for it. That makes us happy. Like, no, just tell us Wings isn't disqualified the day before, so we can fucking sleep in. But we had no idea. Like, we had to go to the actual event to get an answer.
Right.
It just, I don't even know if it's incompetence. I just think they don't have a leader.
It sounds to me, and this is me just spitballing, I guess, but it sounds like they put on a large event with a ton of games and a light management team who depended on volunteer labor and unskilled administrators to sort of keep things duct taped together. And you know, we saw this with, I think there was a Star Ladder issue like a year ago, and some other stuff that came up from just admins sort of duct taping where they can. And it feels a little bit like that. Now, you guys went to the venue at 7, but you had the day off because you weren't playing. And then I heard, did you have an issue with the closing ceremony sort of deal, or what was that all about?
I just want to make a pen something to what you said.
Okay.
You said something about unskilled administrators. I actually don't want to talk too much shit about the admins at the event.
That's true, actually, because they were just volunteers.
Because they were
Wait, did you say they were volunteers too?
They were volunteer translators who admin, and they were trying their goddamn best, and they were trying to get answers from WCA. They weren't getting responses, so shout out to them because they tried.
Like, if it weren't for Danny and Kelly, I don't think that event would have happened.
So
honestly.
everyone who worked for this Dota 2 specific setup, the admins, the translators, the on-site staff, essentially were volunteers?
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds ridiculous. Anyway, so I'm glad you added that.
They could spend some of the, the prize pool that they had, the giant prize.
Well, that's
some of that into the event, so that it actually functions.
If they take like 10% off the prize pool and buy the players fucking chairs, this shitstorm doesn't happen. Like, take one thing off of the list of complaints, and this is so much less likely to happen, especially when it's something that directly involves the comfort of the players sitting there for like 8 hours on end playing games straight. Like you want them to be comfortable in chairs. Fuck 10% of the prize pool. It's already like $1 million. Who's gonna complain about that? Like the prize pool's huge, dude.
You say like $1 million, like 650 versus $1 million. I challenge you. I think maybe you should take your math final on your own this time, Jenkins. But
dude.
Yeah,
Okay,
don't let
I rounded up. So what? Okay. In China, that sort of money is like $1 million. Okay, and in Canada too. Actually, that's almost $1 million Canadian dollars. It's like 800,000 or something.
So it seems to me like we see these trends with Eastern tournaments. I think it was the Nanyang Championship, if I remember correctly, where I think Helen was there doing a ton of work. Kelly sounds like she was a huge savior at this tournament, where a lot of the Dota community sort of had to step up and fill the holes. With that in sight, would you return to WCA next year if the prize pool were the same?
Maybe if they paid out some sort of advance, so like upfront.
Okay, if they pay, I would definitely go prepared. Only if they paid out, I think. But like the redeeming quality for this event is that the Dota 2 community is fucking amazing, and like
Agreed.
I could not believe it, and I'd never seen it in person where I was actually a player at the event. I fucking love this community. Like everyone cares so much about the game. It's insane. Even when we can barely speak their language, and we're trying like so hard to communicate with them. You just kind of like speak in passion at that point. You know what I mean? And it's just like everyone,
dude.
even given the shitty event, all of the fans were like so happy.
Speaking of the fans, can I interrupt you real quick?
Can what?
Can I interrupt you?
No, you can't.
Oh, okay. Just making sure. No, but in front of so Dota wasn't on the main stage at all. I'm pretty sure people heard this.
Oh yeah.
It was on the second stage only like twice, grand finals and semis. But so the setup for the other days, they just had a caster booth, and then in front of it there's just a TV, and just a bunch of people crowded around it. So on the first day, people brought a bunch of chairs and they crowded around the Dota section. It was very clear how much the fans wanted to watch. And then they just had I don't know who, was just some guy running around screaming at everyone.
He looked like
Shredder
from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
He really did, yeah.
He had like a mask on because of the fumes in Yinchuan, and he was just like, "Fucking get off your chair! Get off that You can't be fucking comfortable! Get off of that chair!"
I don't know. It's pretty awful to see. Like these fans, I heard they even came out from like everywhere just to see this tournament, and then all they were given was just this TV in front of a caster, and they put up chairs, and they can't even sit there. Like.
I feel bad. Yeah. No, it sounds like a lot of things were run badly, and I do want to clarify. I said Nanyang a minute ago. I didn't mean Nanyang. I meant the major All Stars tournament that happened earlier last year.
Oh yeah.
That had a whole lot of similar issues come up. So sorry. I know Nanyang was very comfortably run after the tech issues were fixed. I don't want to rag on them because I think they did a good job. I was talking about major All Stars. Okay. That said, it sounds like, because I don't want to go for 2 hours. We don't want to make this the longest show that I've ever done. But we definitely covered WCA. It sounds like the idea was great, but the execution was a failure. There were definitely some issues with rule enforcements, and it sounds to me like you're not, and correct me if I'm wrong, directly calling Wings cheaters. You're just saying maybe they didn't know what their limitations were supposed to be and didn't really try to find out.
Yeah, that's reasonable. Like I said, kill or be killed. I totally understand that. It's competitive. If you can get away with something, then you should do it if it means winning. But that's only if it's within the rules.
Okay. Now, go ahead. Sorry, Jason.
I just want to say that they're players as well, and like they have a lot of respect for the game, I'm sure, and they're passionate about the game. So I don't think they would want to destroy the integrity of Dota as well. Like all this random throwing stuff for like items and all this shit. So like. I personally wouldn't doubt they didn't cheat. It's just the fact that they easily could have, and nothing would have been done about it if no one spoke up to. So that was the main thing I wanted to get done here.
Was there anything else at WCA that you guys think needs to be mentioned or talked about? I mean, it already sounds like anybody who listened to this show or any of the other sort of open commentaries on WCA would say, well, this was a debacle. Anything else that you want to add to that?
I think we covered.
I don't think so.
Okay. I think we covered everything.
Yep.
Let me ask you this then. Somebody asked, this was the third question on Reddit. The second highest one, because I said I'd ask it, is they wanted to know how does it feel when Wings pulled off a Ritsu on you, which I thought was sort of entertaining, maybe a bit too soon. Do you guys feel like during your scrim processing or your practicing, information went to Wings that had a impact on the outcome of the game, or do you think that that's just maybe frustration at the situation?
I think they would have banned our Spirit and Pudge regardless. I don't think
they would have. I mean, I wouldn't say because they banned those heroes that's
why
I think
friends,
they had information. I think they had information because some fucking guys were taking pictures of my screen and going behind them. Like, it has nothing to do with the draft. That literally happened to me. So I see a lot of people posting on Reddit about the draft. The draft is fucking irrelevant. Totally irrelevant.
I think they would have drafted the same no matter what. Like, we're a team that we have games on like Dota Buff and stuff. They have information out there. If they really want to find it, they can. Just a matter if they did. They probably did. They're at an event. They want to win, right? So.
Also, like, just in regards to how we felt, it's kind of like, I feel like another team would be complaining about this a lot more, just because we went with really low expectations,
right.
And then we like greatly exceeded them. So we're really happy with our performance because we got 5th with the fucking coach.
Right. Well, I also feel. Let's also be honest. I feel like another team, and Nikki kind of talked about this on What the Duck, and some other folks brought it up too. I think Kelly talked about it as well. The idea that other teams who are more comfortable with LAN experiences would have stood up and said, "Pause the game, put your damn headphones on."
Yeah, probably.
Or things like that.
I didn't know that was the thing until the night we lost, when a World of Tanks said that. Oh, can you believe it? They had their headsets off during our game. It's like, oh, is that a World of Tanks thing? Oh no, that's like a LAN thing. You have to have your headsets on, or you can fucking hear things. Like, you can cheat. Like, and obviously you want to avoid that at all costs. You want it to be a fair playing field, but it wasn't.
Okay. Now, to move away from WCA for just a second, a lot of folks actually wanted to hear this question. Jenkins is known far and wide as a lover of the Pudge in a lot of different positions. A lot of folks asked me to ask you, is he finally competitively viable after the changes? Like, do you think he justifies a first ban from a team like Wings, or do you think he's not quite ready to come back? Or do you have to keep it secret?
That's a shit hero. Don't ban it.
It's actually, yeah, I would argue that the buffs to Pudge were actually nerfs to Pudge.
Yeah?
And no comment on the reason why. I just think he's completely unviable now. Like, don't ban it. Just like...
Mind games. These are mind games. This is like when I know that you were calling smoke rotations and roaches when you weren't going in to like mess with the other guys, or kicking them in the shins when they were trying to skill shot you.
I actually heard in Counter-Strike people were calling like, "Oh, go A bomb site," and then
worse than that, dude.
And then they would go B, and the Chinese team would defend A.
That's awesome.
The World of Tanks thing with the LED lights was the most like unheard of thing. They had like basically, I guess you could push like left or right. So depending where they were pushing, they'd have their coach stand behind the other team with an LED light and flash if they were going left or right or something. That's what I was told, at least.
They had clickers too. They were speaking in Morse code. And this isn't a joke. Like, they're still deciding on what's going to happen to the World of Tanks teams, and God knows it's going to be fucking no decision because it's WCA.
And it's World of Tanks.
Come on.
That is interesting. All right, so that covers WCA. We talked about Martin. We talked about the WCA. We talked a little bit about Pudge. You guys looking for sponsors? If anybody's out there looking to pick up a team, we've got an up-and-coming North American team who's been together consistently for a long time. You get in touch with these guys. Is there anything else that you want to say to the fans, to WCA, to Wings, to Santa before we sign out?
Yeah, we've been talking about us this whole time. How you doing, Toffees?
I'm good, man. I've got my in-laws coming over in, I don't know, probably about 2 hours, and we're gonna have a Christmas Eve dinner here and do some gift exchanges. It's gonna be a good time. My son started walking recently, so that's great.
Nice. I was gonna say, how's the little guy?
He's good. He started walking. He's running around. Said his first couple of words. It's
here's the real question. What did you get him for Christmas? Because you know you're gonna have to outdo yourself every year.
An insane amount of stuff. It's the first Christmas, so like I got him like a Harley Davidson tricycle and a basketball hoop and a bunch of cars and Legos and pretty much anything that he could possibly have wanted with his 1-year-old.
Oh man, Legos! You're in for a world of hell. Legos.
He already his aunt gave him some. I've already ruined my feet many times.
Oh,
that's actually one of my insults in Dota. When I get really mad at someone, I wish upon them that they step on a Lego. That's like one of the worst things you could possibly wish upon someone.
Step on one of the little like two pieces or whatever.
Oh my god.
I will give you guys a little bit of an insight into me. You shared a story about pooping earlier, so I feel like we've gotten close. I grew up in Hawaii. I don't know if Ja grew up there, if he just lives there.
Yeah, he grew up there.
but I spent most of my life on the beach in Lava Rock barefooted, so I've got so many calluses and such hard feet at this point that Legos don't really bother me that much, to be completely honest.
Oh my. Oof. Well then. I guess you have a superpower or something.
You should, next time you get a chance to, poke
impressive.
Ja on the foot and see if it's as disgusting as I think it is. You get like a hard shell on the bottom.
I mean, it certainly smelled really bad.
I actually don't want to touch Ja's feet, let alone smell them or even look at them.
It's a Hawaiian thing. Anyway, that's it. I'm glad I could share that little moment with you guys. It's pretty terrible. I did grow up on the Big Island, Ja. I grew up in Hilo. So all of our beaches there are black sand and like super gnarly. So anyway, that's it, guys. This is the show. I really appreciate you guys coming on and sort of giving us an honest assessment of your WCA experience. I look forward to seeing great things from you guys. Make sure you guys tune back in. We're going to have the Wings manager here on Saturday it's going to be 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, because in Shanghai, I think that's like 10 p.m. Just before he goes to bed. And he's going to sort of give us his side of things. And we're going to talk about, whether it was cheating or honest mistakes, how he squares that. And we do have the translator from the Frankfurt Major, KBBQ. Jack is going to be here doing the translations for us to make sure that there is no misunderstandings, that there's nobody making WCA feel like they're being extorted instead of just asked for cash. It should be good. So tune in for that, guys. It'll be good. A big thank you to everybody who's watching. A thank you, of course, to the sponsors, and we're going to go through them real quick. It is Pro-Built Systems, who gave me an incredible custom-built computer to make this show on with a handmade Fallout case. You can check out the pictures on Twitter. A big shout out to Asus for making this also possible, providing some parts as well as the ability to take the show on the road. And, of course, to Razer for all of the hardware that mice, keyboards, all the fun stuff that we use to run the show. So thanks to you guys. Thanks to Leviathan, Jenkins, Jason, and theoretically Shibby for being here to do
Thanks a lot, Shibby. You're very insightful. A lot of good stuff. Thanks a lot, Shibby.
He typed a lot. He did good typing.
That's true. He's in chat.
Do you guys have any last words or shouts before we sign off for the
yeah, shout out to Martin Shkreli. He did a real good job with those AIDS drugs. I really wish he paid me out with the drugs actually instead of the money. I really would appreciate it. Come on, shout out there.
See, I told you.
Dude, we can make jokes now. It's great.
Jokes. He's just joking.
We made jokes in private, just so you know, Reddit. We weren't completely blind to it. We just couldn't talk about it publicly because of the track. Anyways.
Jenkins, last thoughts?
Yeah, shout out to Martin Shkreli. I'm just joking. No, I got nothing.
Okay. Shivy? That's what I thought.
He said shout out to Wei. He was one of the guys that helped us.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, let's do this real quick before we sign out. Was there anybody particularly helpful at the event that you do think
oh my lord, yes,
deserves some love?
Kelly
got so much.
Kelly's amazing. Like I posted on Reddit. If every manager is as good as Kelly is, like we're gonna be so sad as like.
Shout out to our new manager Tom too. Without him, Kelly or like Danny, we would not have survived China. I don't think.
Very cool.
Really don't.
Very cool. And I hear that Kelly does that for a lot of teams. So I'm excited. I'm glad to hear she helped you out. I'm glad to see more people get to see that she is actually a really great person who seems to get some sort of weird bad rap in the Dota scene that I don't quite understand. But I'm glad that she was able to help you guys out. You guys can follow me at Toffees TV. Where can they find you two?
I'm Anush from Dota. I actually I know why people are so like hard on Kelly. I'm pretty sure it's because people are fucking scared of her because she's like. She's so assertive and like alpha dominant. Like she just dominates you. That's why people are scared, dude.
Interesting.
It's fucking scared me, but it got shit done, right? Like
can't argue with that.
I think Jaws in chat. There's one question I saw in Reddit that was actually really interesting about basically the whole process of him stepping up to be a player. Maybe something you could do elsewhere, but yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
Toffees wants to end the interview. You're being really rude.
Come on, dude.
Actually, being really rude.
I'll just ask him.
You can talk if you want to do it. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, he's in chat, so.
Oh, now he's being patronizing to you, Nusham. Don't fucking say anything.
I'm not patronizing. I'm here for you.
No, I want to end the show now. I think. I think I'm done.
Listen, if we end the show, I've got to clean the house. If we keep the show going, then my wife will take care of the work.
Oh, well, there you go.
Well, Jason left, so I guess we're all good. Guys, that's the end of the show. We even got a rage quit on this one. So that's how you know it was a real winner.
That was
thanks to all the viewers who stopped by. I do have in-laws coming over, so if you're watching this VOD right now and you're like, man, it's been a day since the show, why did it take so long to get up? It's because it's Christmas Eve, you jerks, and sometimes you got to spend time with family. That said, thanks for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed the show. I'll play some music and hang out in the lobby for just a few minutes to answer any questions that you might have. But as always, boys and girls, Toffees out.
Oh wow.